and welcome to A Course in Miracles 365. I'm your host, Tomas Garza, and wherever you're joining me from today, whether it's live or on the replay, welcome and thank you so much for tuning in. If you've just started tuning in here, this is a daily live stream. That's why 365 is in the title. And also it's the number of lessons in the workbook for students in A Course in Miracles, which you may be going through with me right now. Maybe you're doing it on your own and you may have heard of it. Well, maybe you haven't ever heard of it, but if you have not, welcome. And if you're new to this live stream, again, welcome. It is a daily live stream. So what we have been doing here is I have been sharing my own experience with A Course in Miracles, which has been the foundation of my own spiritual practice for about the last 8 years. I have studied in several different Christian traditions, in Buddhism and other world spiritual traditions. And this found me at exactly the right time in 2013. So what I'm doing here is I'm spending 15 to 20 minutes each day sharing some of my experiences with you. And I do take listener questions, comments here on the live. Also, if you catch me on the replay later on in the day, feel free, 100% free to type comments in the comment thread and I will get back to them. I will see them because I do check. So I aim for this to be interactive. Now, that said, as we go into today's workbook lesson, if you've watched and tuned in, you'll know that I have had a couple of guests come on the show here, and I will have another one tomorrow. So tomorrow, at a slightly different time, at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in North America, here at 5 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to have a special guest. Marbeth Dunn is going to join me. Now, Marbeth is a longtime course student whom I met last year, and she leads a couple of groups and classes on A Course in Miracles, and this has been a foundational part of her life and her spiritual development. So I'm excited to bring her on the show. This is tomorrow, so she can share that with you. I like to see other people's experiences, and I know for you, the viewer, it's really valuable to see someone else besides the same person. Right? I'm happy to offer my experience, but in bringing in other people to the live stream, I aim to do a couple of things. Number one is vary up the way that this program is delivered, because I could talk for hours and hours and hours, but I want to keep it brief. But it's only a 30-minute time slot. So there's that. But I want to provide different perspectives so people can get an idea, so you as a viewer can get an idea of how this beautiful spiritual text, and when we commit to practicing this, how differently our lives can all look. And it's fun to see and to hear from people who have had profound shifts, wonderful and beautiful transformations as a result of this thought system. And that's what the course calls itself, actually. It's a self-study course, yes, self-study curriculum. It's also a thought system aimed to reverse the thinking of the world. In other words, we start with ourselves, of course, on that, to shift our own thinking, quite simply, from fear to love. Yeah, and if you hear me repeating that, which you do, that's because that's what it's all about. That's the essence of it, is a shift in our perception from fear to love, from the ego to God, and shifting our perception of the entire world. It's very important work, because that actually is the key to ultimate joy, happiness, fulfillment, you name it. Okay, so on that line of thinking here, let's talk about lesson 40, which says, I am blessed as a son of God. All right. You may or may not have been raised in a Christian tradition. I was, maybe you weren't, right? You may have been raised completely differently. Perhaps you discovered spirituality as an adult and it was not a part of your life growing up. Wherever you're coming from here, let's talk about what we mean by Son of God real quickly, because I know that people can get hung up on that. They get hung up on the gender thing. Okay, what is gender actually, anyway? You know, if we're not a human body, ultimately, then what is gender? That's a question for you. Yeah. And if you're answering, oh, we made that up, got it. Yes. Son of God means the extension of God, God's creation. This course simply uses the word son because of its familiarity to those of us who have grown up in the Judeo-Christian tradition, where we're referred to as the Son of God. Jesus is referred to as the Son of God. In fact, when I was raised and growing up in Hoffmantown Baptist Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico, there was a perceived separation that Jesus was the only Son of God. No, we all are the Son of God. In other words, God's extension, creation. He extends himself. Love extends itself. That's what that means. So, you know, if you are a woman and yeah, I know a lot of women would prefer to say daughter of God, just to understand that the course uses this to apply to everybody. All right. There are no separations, no divisions of any kind, period. End of discussion. We're talking ultimate truth here. This is what A Course in Miracles is about, is a presentation of the ultimate truth, which we then have the choice to remember in our own experience. Remember, because we've never lost it. There's no place we have to go. We are blessed as the Son of God. Okay, now today's lesson wants us to focus on the positive, and this is very fun. It's very beautiful. And rather than do a long practice period today, it has us remember as often as we can today's idea and assign ourselves some attributes. So, how do you feel in your life when you feel grateful? Right? When you are in a space of gratitude, when you feel genuinely, truly, ultimately blessed, let's sit in that feeling as much as we can today during the frequent practice applications. Simply, we say, I am blessed as a son of God. And then the workbook gives an example. I am happy, peaceful, loving, and contented. What comes to mind? I am grateful. I am joyous. I am exuberant. I am all powerful. I am certain. I am confident. I am secure. What are the attributes that spring to your mind when you sit in and with and acknowledge your own reality as the Son of God? Each of us is the Son of God. In fact, we could say we're the Son of God because there are no divisions, are no separations of any kind at all. This is the ultimate truth. Truth simply is. We simply are. We're just awakening to that. So let's talk for a couple of minutes here about the reasons people give up on the workbook. You may have done this in the past yourself, or you may know somebody. As someone who has led not just this live stream, but other workshops, seminars, and participated in groups associated with the Course in Miracles, this is something that I see a lot of. I also see it a lot because I'm a meditation instructor. I've had my own meditation practice, my own personal practice since the mid 1980s. In fact, I learned meditation my sophomore year in high school in geometry class, which is a little a little weird, maybe, right? It's not the place one thinks of, but I happened to have a geometry teacher who was an experienced meditator, and he would have us all come in, sophomores in high school, uncomfortable, right, insecure, some people more secure than others because of that developmental age range, 15 years old, something like that. And some people were calm and composed on their way to young adulthood. Others were um, gawky, awkward, throwing spitwads, right? He would have us come in to geometry class, sit down, and meditate. He would lead us in a guided meditation for 3 or 4 minutes every day in class. And of course, people rolled their eyes. They laughed and joked. They threw spitwads at each other. And of course, plenty of people were uncomfortable. They're sophomores in high school. I actually resonated with that. And I thought, oh, wow, I really enjoy this. So the instructions were simple. I felt and experienced the benefit, and I went from there. So I've been doing it ever since. And the practice periods are a meditation. I've said this on a couple of live streams, and they have us remember the day's idea. That is the same in a meditation practice as remembering the object of meditation. Let's say, for example, you're doing a guided meditation and someone is instructing you to put your attention on your breath, your inhale, your exhale. Let the day's idea serve as the breath, right? The object of meditation. So we're instructed when we meditate that yes, our minds are going to run off. They're often wholly and completely undisciplined, aren't they? They run off, and you find yourself thinking about 25 different things, but not the thing you were originally thinking about. And it just runs and runs. And there's a term in Eastern spirituality called monkey mind that they use a lot in Buddhism. And yeah, that describes why we need meditation. That describes why we need a workbook for students in A Course in Miracles, a practice period to kind of let that hamster wheel go. We just let it go. And when, not if, but when we discover that we've been carried away in monkey mind, we just bring our attention back without judgment, without saying, oh, I'm doing this wrong. I suck at this. People say that, and they quit doing the workbook for students for that reason. I've had people say to me, Tomas, I'm not doing this right. Actually, you are. You are doing it right. However you remember the day's idea, remember the day's idea. I know people that program this into their watch, right? If you have an Apple Watch or a smartwatch or something, and it reminds them, people set alerts, they set timers. If that works for you, that works for you. It works for a lot of people. If you find that it's difficult to remember this, what I would say is when you remember, just bring your attention back to it. And today's lesson 40, is a perfect example. When you remember, I am blessed as a son of God, simply bring your awareness back to that, even if it's just for 10 seconds. You don't have to close your eyes. It's always helpful if you can, but it's possible to meditate in just one breath. It's possible to do this exercise. It's possible to say, even if you're at your desk working and you're in conversation with somebody and you can't well say, excuse me, I want to just pop out and meditate right here because I need to do my practice period, right? If that would be an awkward situation, you can do it while you're engaged in something else with your eyes wide open. Why? In your mind, you can simply remember, I am blessed as a son of God. I am peaceful, loving, happy and joyful, for example. Yeah, that's an example. I said just a second ago that meditation can be as short as one breath. It is, right? If you draw in one breath, one inhale, and one exhale, and you place your awareness on it, that is a meditation. So I hope never to hear that you don't have time for meditation, nor do I hope to hear that I don't have time for these exercises. Yes, you do. You do. If you have the will, the desire to experience your true self, if you have the desire to go home, so to speak, if you have the desire to shine away and step away from all, and I mean all, suffering, if you have that desire, it is quite easy to find 10 seconds to remind yourself that you are blessed as a son of God. What I always recommend that people do, I recommend that you do this as well. When you find that you're not able to do all of this all of the time and you forget the day's lesson, let's say 7 or 8 hours go by during the day and then you remember it, just come back to it and do it right then. Just come back to it and do it right then. The past doesn't exist. People quit doing the workbook for students for this reason. They find that they don't do as many practice periods as the workbook suggests. And you know what? That's all right if you don't. I'd like to invite you to keep going with it. Why should you keep going with it? Because any little bit of practice that you get in, even the slightest millimeter fraction of switch from the ego to God in your mind, from fear to love, everything adds up and has a tremendous ripple effect, not just on you, but on everybody that you're connected to, your friends, your family, your colleagues at work, your neighbors, people living on the other side of the world. It all adds up and it all has value, and everyone needs you to be bringing as much value as you can. So even if you only remember the day's exercise once, remember it once and do it once. And now if you remember it 100 times and do it 100 times, fantastic. Understand that that is not required. All that's required of us is that we choose love right now in the present moment. That's it. So I hope that this is a fun workbook exercise for you. I hope that you're able, when you think about it and scan your mind, to come up with lots of things to say, dozens and dozens of creative attributes of yourself, with capital S, of course, you as the Son of God. Well, let's see who's tuned in here today. And as always, I thank you all for joining me here on the live. And we've got several people on here. So let me look at some of the comments here. And Robert, hello. And Deirdre, hello. How are you all? Yes. Yeah, and so we're looking at some in the comments here. We're looking at yeah, when the division started. Um, yeah, I find that in Buddhism, this is helpful to me. In Buddhism, it just says from beginningless time, right? We don't know actually when on a linear time frame we began to have the experience of being cut off from our source, from feeling like we were separate. We don't really know where that happened in linear time, and that's okay that we don't know. It's one of these mysteries and enigmas that the conscious mind tries to logically pinpoint. Ultimately, we're not able to do that. Why? Because there is no such thing as linear time. It actually does not exist. So what this means is At no point did we actually separate. This is referred to in various spiritual traditions, including A Course in Miracles, our separate experience, relative truth, as an illusion, as a dream from which we are awakening. So, yeah, dreams, I mean, we experience dreams sometimes every night, right? We may or may not remember them, but then we wake up from them. The same thing's going on right now. So at no point did we actually separate from our true nature. It has always been there. We're having an experience that appears very much to the contrary. But when did that happen? Yeah, we can't really say when that happened. All we know is right now, which is all we have a choice, right? And the choice is choose love or choose fear. But it sure is interesting, isn't it, to the conscious mind to try to pinpoint, okay, at what point did this schism happen, right? At what point did we break off from our true nature and go off to seek our fame and fortune or whatever, right? As separate from God, with God being in the sky as some being who's depicted however he or she or it is depicted, right? Yeah, now, there's never been a separation. So very interesting. So yeah, and if you don't have the workbook, this is perfectly okay. Yeah, thank you, Robert, for this comment. You don't have to have the workbook to find all of this really helpful. So I'm really delighted that you're finding this informative. This applies to any spiritual practice at all. And even without the workbook in your possession, you can still apply these lessons, right? We can all do that. We can still say, I'm blessed as a son of God. I'm happy. I'm whole. I'm content. I'm peaceful. I'm all powerful. Because you are. Yeah. I love this. It's a great comment. And I'm thank you so much for that. I'm very happy to hear that this is even without the workbook beneficial. That's what I intend, right? That is what the Holy Spirit intends. It's what God intends, is for this to benefit everybody, however it reaches you. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Yeah, and then hi Stephanie. Yeah, so you've had a meditation practice. Hello, Rosalind, and everyone that's joining me. Yeah, meditation practice is really good, isn't it? I mean, it's been a foundational piece of my own spiritual world, my own life, no question about it. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And yeah, and then when we think about all the activities that, reading a comment here, that consume our time, yeah, we find we have more than enough time. Yeah. And when we think about all of the distractions that we engage ourselves in happily, right, unwittingly, habitually, right, we could pick up our phone and, well, I'm using it to look at the comments. See, there I am, and there you are. Thank you for tuning in. But we are often on these little devices, just mindlessly staring at photos, reading the news. If you're a sports fan, maybe you're reading ESPN.com. I don't really know, right? There's all kinds of different things that we spend our time on. And when we think about it, we don't have an excuse to not spend 5 to 10 seconds in a one breath meditation or reciting a lesson or a course in miracles. It could be saying a quick prayer for you, right? Why would you not do that when you remember to do that? Yeah, it's not a real excuse to say that we don't have time. Actually, none of us has time because there isn't real anyway. So yeah, there you go. Well, and hello from, oh yeah, from Pakistan. Okay, wonderful. We've got literally an international group here. There are people watching live from North America, from Pakistan, and from Romania. And we've got people watching from Europe regularly. So thank you all for tuning in. Now, I do want to remind you, if you're catching this for the first time, this is a daily live stream. And I do have a special guest, Marbet Dunn, will be joining me tomorrow here on A Course in Miracles 365, sharing her insight, and it's tremendous, as I've known Marbeth for about a year now, and she's a long time course student, leads a couple of groups, and is really, really insightful on this. So I'm looking forward to having her come on and share her experience with you. Then on Tuesday, on Tuesday will be March 16th, we'll be right back into the workbook for students. So it's worth taking a couple of pauses. Now, the workbook says itself, you don't have to just slam right through this in 365 days. I have often spent more than one day on a lesson. Why? Because I felt like I needed it. Once I did it because I actually forgot the lesson the day before and got carried away in whatever it was that I was doing and came back to it the next day. Sometimes I've done that because I felt like I wanted more practice with it. So however this works for you, what matters is that you're doing it. What matters is that you show up. And I very, very much appreciate you spending the time with me here. If I did not get to your questions or you have further questions, feel welcome to please type them in the comments. And as always, thank you for joining me here. And I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.